Week 27. Let's go over the 6 books I have started. I always have 6 books started, so let's jump into them. First one is my audiobook, which is Caught Up by Neessa Allen. This is the second book in the Lights Out series. It's a spicy series, and this one specifically has mafia vibes and second chance romance, which I am not typically a second chance romance girly, but this book 24% in has convinced me already. Usually think there's a reason these people broke up, there's a reason why they didn't get together, and this book has already convinced me. The ebook I am reading is Stealing Time by KJ Waters. This is a very interesting book. I got the third book in a Goodreads giveaway, and so I thought I would start this series because the third book is one of the 25 books I'm gonna read in 2025. But in this book, we are in 2004 with Hurricane Charlie in Florida. And there is a girl and her boyfriend is a scientist and her best friend is there. Her best friend goes back to her home during this hurricane. Ronnie is the girlfriend and she goes to her boyfriend's scientist lab. Ronnie ends up going back in time to the 1700s, and it's very clear she doesn't belong there. She's on trial. There's all kinds of chaos and she cannot get back. Her boyfriend is trying to get her back. Plus her friend is dealing with Charlie. So we're jumped into all of these perspectives and I'm really curious to see how the last part of this book ends. I'm 67% of the way through, and then how the series continues. I'm just so curious. The third book is my physical book, and it is Trouble with Texas Cowboys by Carolyn Brown. I am 63% of the way through this. It is the second book in the Burnt Boot Texas series and a cowboy romance. However, I feel like the romance is almost secondary to this family feud. There are 2 families in this town and they are a little bit crazy. Our couple is not involved with either of these families. Both these families want the girl to be on their side, and so they're trying to woo her. But our male main character is a ranch hand where she's at, and they end up sharing a bunkhouse. This is another book. I don't know how I feel. We'll see about the end. I just feel like the feud is taking over the plot, and I'd rather get to know our main characters more and their romance. The book I'm reading during my Bible time is When Godly People Do Ungodly Things by Beth. I'm really enjoying this book a lot. Last week I didn't get very far through it. I think I'm about 40% now. There's just been some instances in the last year or so that I feel like this book is really hitting hard. I have to take it in little chunks because there's so much good nuggets for me and some struggles. Yes, I'm enjoying that. And then I have the gratitude journal, which I try and do a prompt a day. I'm 20% of the way through. And then the Bible. Last week we had no structure, no plans, and I got behind on all of my normal things, and that included listening to the Bible. So that is definitely a goal of mine to catch up on that very soon. So those are the 6 books I have started. I will check in with you when I have a reading update, but our July schedule is very different than our June schedule, so we'll see how it goes. Grab a drink, grab a snack. I finished 9 books this week. I did not film myself reading any of it or my thoughts throughout. I do have 2 reviews that are in real time, so we're gonna do 2 reviews. Then you'll get the 2 reviews that were filmed in real time, and then you're gonna get 5 additional reviews. I will say most of these books were shorter, and that's how I was able to finish so many of them. Besides that, I don't know how I finished them. So let's jump in. The first one was my physical book, The Trouble with Texas Cowboys by Carolyn Brown. This is the second book in the Burnt Boot Texas series. I will say this up front, this series is not my favorite cowboy romance. I think it's fun and fine, but I don't love the feud. There is a feud between 2 families, and it just causes so much issues that I feel like the romance almost gets lost in that. I'd rather focus on the romance than this feud. The feud did put our 2 main characters, Jill and Sawyer, in some interesting predicaments because Jill is from a neutral family, and so both the other families are trying to get to her. And so Sawyer's kind of the buffer in there. They end up staying at the same cabin because he's the ranch hand. And so they just slowly get to know each other throughout the book. But again, I just felt like I couldn't connect to their romance because the feud was going on. I ended up giving that book 3.75 stars. The second book I finished was an ebook, and it was Stealing Time by KJ Waters. This is the first book in the Stealing Time trilogy, where Ronnie and Stephanie are best friends. They originally are going to ride out the storm together, but then they decide to split up. Stephanie goes home and one of her guy friends comes over, and they are dealing with Hurricane Charlie throughout this book. And then Ronnie goes to her boyfriend's lab. From there, Ronnie ends up in England in the 1700s and has no idea why she's there. doesn't know how to act, and so people are very suspicious of her because she's like taking over someone's body, and so they're like, she's acting so different. She gets into herself into lots of trouble, and the person here is trying to help her get back. This was definitely the start of the trilogy because I felt like it left off not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but with so many things unresolved. So I'm very curious to see how this series resolves itself. I did win the third one in a Goodreads giveaway, and so it is on my 25 books on read in 2025, which is why I ended up starting this series. It's very, very interesting so far. I ended up giving this book 3.75 stars as well. So I finished 2 audiobooks yesterday. They are very, very different. One is a YA Christian fantasy, and the other one is an adult spicy mafia romance. But we're going to talk about both of them because that is my taste in books. It's so random. And that's why I think I never get bored of reading, because I'm always reading lots of different things. The first audiobook I finished yesterday was Caught Up by Neessa Allen. This is the second book in the Into the Darkness series. In this book, we are following Allie's, who is our female main character in the first book's cousin, Junior or Nico, depending on the circumstance. He goes by both, but he is in the mafia because of his dad and doesn't necessarily want to be in the mafia, doesn't necessarily enjoy all of the things he does, feels a little bit stuck, so he's trying to figure that out. But he also has a longtime crush on Lauren. Lauren's job is a cam girl or OF, whatever you want to say. She does do some in-person things at a club that she owns, and her goal is to get that profession more legalized and seen in a better light. And Nico, or Junior, is one of her subscribers, and they end up running back into each other. They knew each other growing up. There was something that goes on. They kind of go into detail throughout the book, and Lauren starts finding out some things about Nico that really intrigue her. This book is very different than Lights Out. It's not as funny, quirky, like the humor is very different, but I loved it. I loved the mafia romance situation that was going on, and I ate it up. I've been working on getting some more steps in, and so I was just walking in circles listening to it, and I was having a really good time. This is definitely not a book for everyone. Like I said, it is a spicy mafia romance, and so the trigger warnings at the beginning of the book are very true. Just like in Lights Out. And as I said, compared to Lights Out, I felt like it felt heavier. And I think it's just our characters were different. I loved Nico. Lauren was okay to me, but her friends were really fun. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. I finished that book pretty early on in the day, and so I ended up listening to Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis, which is the second book in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There's different orders, but the second book, I believe, published. I believe I'm reading it in publication order. I found an order and just decided to go with it. So yes, Prince Caspian. This is a year in human time after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I have not seen this movie, so I can't compare them. Lucy, Edmund, Peter, and Susan all end up back in Narnia. And Earth time and Narnia time are not the same, so lots has happened in Narnia, and so we're kind of getting caught up on that. And we get Prince Caspian and his view and what's been going on in Narnia. And Prince Caspian's goal is to be the king that he's been denied, gearing up people to do that. And so Edmund, Lucy, Susan, and Peter are there during this time. I thought this was a really fun listen to. Obviously, it was very quick, and I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. And you're back with me and my coffee. So we're gonna go over the last 5 books I finished for the week. Again, most of these books are shorter, and that's how I read them because I really didn't spend that much time reading this week. I have been trying to get more steps, and with that been listening to audiobooks during that time, like waking up early and things. So I think that's how the audiobooks got finished quicker. The first book, which was mostly audiobook, some ebook, was Almost There by Farrah Rochan. This is a twisted tale where we're following the princess and the frog. To be honest, I think I've watched that movie maybe once. So I went into this book very, very blind, but I really enjoyed this book. There are 3 perspectives in this book. It was Tiana, Naveen, and Dr. Facilier. The twist was that Tiana made a deal with Dr. Facilier, and so she's struggling with that throughout, and Dr. Facilier wants extra things. And then we have Naveen, who is trying to get Tiana's attention because it seems to take place after the movie, like things have already occurred in the movie. Again, seen it once. I really enjoyed it. I love the New Orleans feel. It made me really want to watch The Princess and the Frog again to see all the things I missed, and I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. I finished Staking His Claim by Tessa Bailey. This is the 5th book in the Line of Duty series, and it was on the shorter side of right around 200 pages, and it is about Matt. He is a friend of Brent and Hayden. It's definitely closed off and doesn't get involved with a lot of things, but Brent asks him to pick up his little sister Lucy from college. Matt doesn't realize that it's Lucy, and the two of them end up at a hotel together, and this book is spicy, so things happen. But once he realizes it is Lucy, there's definitely an internal war in his head of like what he should do. The miscommunication doesn't stop there and just continues. The spice in this book was spicy, and I felt like that took away because it was such a short book of like really delving into Matt. We got it like reason why he's shut off, but I wanted to kind of dive into it more, I guess. I don't know. I just wanted more from these characters. I just didn't feel super invested. A combination of it being really short and then just it being really spicy and that being a big focus on the book. So I didn't love this book. I've liked others in the series better for sure. I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. The next book was another short one. It was around 100 pages and it was The Barbarian Before Christmas, which is either book 15.5 or 16 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, depending on where you look. It's essentially a countdown to Christmas. They call it No Poison Day, but it's Christmas. And so we get to see lots of different characters and different points of view, but the two that we are following mainly is Ellie and Beck. They were in a book together earlier, and Ellie was a very shut off person, so she's extremely missing Beck. And so we see both their points of view and others along the way, and just their countdown to Christmas and will they be together for that holiday or not. I thought it was a fun book, kind of going back and looking at some of the couples that we've met in the past. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The next book I finished was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. This book is right around 300 pages, but I devoured it. And I was really hesitant going in because I am not a visual person. I like character development, which there is a lot in this book, but I also heard that was very scenic and like the descriptions of places and like flowers and things. And I wasn't looking forward to that because I don't visualize things usually when I read. This book I really liked because it had that suspenseful element, but it also had the relationship because there is a dad and 3 kids that are on this island and a woman washes up to shore, and it's just figuring out why she's here and the story behind the dad and the kids and what's going on with them. They're on this deserted island with some very important seeds, and it's just a fascinating book. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I would definitely go into it mainly blind like that, but I enjoyed it, and I definitely see how a lot of people could enjoy it because it definitely takes some different genres and puts them together. We have made it to the last book. I finished Where We Belong by J. Daniels. This is the 4th book in the Alabama Summer series, and we are following Ben and Mia. They are married, they're raising 2 boys, and Ben has been working on second shift, and so they feel like they never see each other, never have time alone. And I felt this book so deeply. If you are married and have had small children, especially more than one at a time, this book felt so relatable. It's definitely spicy. It's one of those books where it almost felt like an extended epilogue because there wasn't a huge like fight or necessarily issue, minus the fact that they can never be together. But I loved getting their 2 points of view on it and the things they did to try and spice things up. I think having had small children and understanding where they're coming from, I really enjoyed this book. If you have not been married or don't have small children, it might not make sense. I ended up giving that book 3.75 stars. So let's end off week 27 talking about these 6 books that I am currently in the middle of. The first 2 are the ones I'm always in the middle of and will be for the rest of the year, and that is the Bible because I'm doing a year-long plan. I'm a little bit behind on it, so I didn't recalculate where I'm at. And then the gratitude journal, I am slowly working through this. I'm sure it'll take me 2 complete years to work through those 365 prompts. The 3rd book, I got to 61%, and that is When Godly People Do Ungodly Things by Beth. I'm really enjoying this book. I am taking it slowly, and I've missed some days for sure. So I want to get in a little bit better of a routine. I'm trying to add in some exercise, which I love a good routine. It just takes me a little bit to get all of the things I want in a routine. The audiobook I'm listening to is the 7th Outlander series, and it's The Echo and the Bone. Our 4 main characters are split up into different time periods. So we are in America with Claire and Jamie, and then Brianna and Roger are in the 20th century, and we are getting both their perspectives. Claire is writing notes to Brianna because she knows that that's where she's going to be. So that's always an interesting time. The book I started was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, where we are following Haymitch, who mentored Katniss in the Hunger Games, and we're getting his story of kind of get a background on him and how he got into the games. And I assume the games itself, I am only 12-ish% in, so I just started this book, but I am enjoying it, getting back into this world. I don't feel like it's a very complicated read because there's a lot of characters that you've known before, and you do know some of his story. Another ebook I'm reading, and I'm trying to read like 20% every morning, is The Metmorphosis by Frank's Coffee. This book is pretty short. I'm 15% of the way through, but it's about a man who wakes up as a bug and how that affects his family and his life thus far. It's a very interesting book. It is one of the books on the Roy Gilmore book list, which is how I came to read it. But those are my 6 books. I hope you enjoyed week 28. I have some goals to hopefully make these videos a little bit more interesting.